You just hit level 22 and completed your main quest. Now you feel like you are ready to start farming your dailies in those dungeons everyone's talking about. But unfortunately, it's being dominated by higher level and overpowered players, while you're still a noob with no dungeon experience. So how do you start farming gold? Let's take a look at one of the most used metas currently to start dungeon farming. First, in order to get into a good dungeon to farm, you have to pass a skill check. Now, just because you hit a certain level doesn't mean you automatically pass. Some players make the mistake of not speccing their points at all or speccing their skills into the wrong skill tree and end up with a useless build. Keep that in mind because different players choose to spec into different skills, and some skills only work in certain farming spots. So you need to make sure your skills are specced into the right skill tree to farm at the dungeon you want. Now, assuming you did choose all the right skills, the next thing you want to do is to apply to the dungeon you want to farm at. In order to apply, you have to first craft a codex called the resume. Thankfully, this codex is pretty easy to craft, and the recipe for crafting one is pretty commonly found. You don't need much skills to craft one either, as long as you have a few points invested into literacy and intelligence. Once you have crafted a resume, this codex will display what achievements you earned from your previous dungeons or main questlines, and what skills you dumped your XP in. From here, you should identify what type of dungeon best fits you. Just because a dungeon offers nice rewards doesn't mean it is the most suitable for you. There are many other factors to consider, like a dungeon's location, their difficulty, their existing party members, what time you must farm the dungeons, and how much mandatory overtime farming it requires. Once you have identified which dungeon best suits your needs, it's time to apply. Now if you're in the NA server, you can't just go screaming LFG in a populated town. Other players may report you for spam, and you may receive a temporary ban. There are special areas you have to apply through, and some dungeons only accept your codexes through those areas. But feel free to send as many of your codexes as you want. In fact, you want to send as many as you can to maximize your chances. What players recommend to do is to DM the dungeon recruiter a short message with why you want to join their party and how your build can benefit their party comp first, then offer them your resume codex. Once a dungeon recruiter notices your application and responds to you, they'll typically want to meet with you to check out your skills. Your goal here is to impress the dungeon recruiter of why the build you picked is perfect for their team comp. This could be a difficult process, especially if you are playing in a crowded server like NA. But don't worry, if you don't end up getting into the dungeon you want right away, you can always join up with some easier dungeons while you are searching. These easier dungeons typically require a lower skill check to join. Oftentimes you can join with any type of build as long as you have some points invested in the intelligence stat. You should be fine. Eventually, if you keep applying, you should be accepted into a dungeon that suits you. Now, once you're accepted, that's great news. The dungeon leader will introduce you to your party members and show you how to begin doing your dailies. And congratulations, now you can start doing your dailies and getting gold, so get to it and start grinding.